Good morning. I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News Now, coming to you from our digital studio. We're going to be taking you into court. This is going to be the Willoughby Municipal Court. This is for a change of plea for the Pittsburgh Steelers cornerback, Justin Layne. It was back on April 23rd. Justin Layne is a native of Cleveland, went to high school at Benedictine High School before being drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was on April 23rd, about 1:20 in the morning. He was caught speeding, doing 89 in a 60-mile-per-hour zone. Police, when searching their vehicle, according to police, found fragments of weed apparently all over through the car. And then when they searched the center console, according to police, found a loaded Glock 9mm pistol. From what we understand, this is going to be a change of plea. Originally charged with improper handling of a firearm in a motor vehicle. That was a felony of the 4th degree, obviously carrying some pretty heavy penalties. It was also cited, obviously, for the speeding. We understand that this is going to be a change of plea from the felony to a 1st-degree possession. They're going to drop the felony weapons charge and charge him with 1st-degree possession of criminal tools. Gun charges, remember, are considered to be violent offenses in the NFL. The commissioner, the team, could obviously take some serious consequences, actions, suspensions if he was convicted of a gun felony. So we'll have to see if this really helps out the NFL star, the cornerback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, if this will help him in any way, having the felony dropped down to a 1st-degree possession of criminal tools. And we'll have to see how this plays out. You can see Justin Layne right there in the blue suit with the red tie. As we get the all rise, let's take you live into court.
Good morning. Can all have a seat? Ms. Lamarco already went through the masks with you?
She did.
Okay, all right. So the tables are 6 feet, and if you want to remove your mask, you can when you're speaking. If not, that is fine too,
Thank you, Judge.
as long as I can hear you and that the microphones, my microphones, pick you up for the record. All right, we are on the record. 21 CRA 948. 21 TRD 1872. Do you have the new charge in? Can you see it?
I can see it, yes. I will make sure it's up to you. Yes, it's not under.
It's not?
I got it.
Thank you.
Now, if you hit refresh, it should be there. It's 21 CRB 01034.
I have it now. And that's the newly filed, so that's the 21 CRB 1034. Cases are captioned State of Ohio, City of Willoughby Hills versus Justin Layne. Are you Mr. Layne? Defendant is present with counsel, Attorney Friedman. Good morning again.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Mr. Friedman, we engaged in some pretrial discussions here before your client came into the courtroom, so if you could outline how your client intends to proceed this morning.
Thank you. Your Honor, may I approach
Sure.
with a mask on?
Sure.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, no, I apologize. Again, it's been a long while since I've been here, and so I just want to
Okay.
check with your protocol.
sure.
Are you expecting a no contest or guilty? What's your requirement? Obviously, I would always prefer no contest, but it's your court, and because there's no reduction, I don't want to do anything that's
Oh,
not
okay.
in conformity with your.
Yeah, so it's a plea of guilty if there's a plea bargain. However, if you wanted to plead no contest, you can put the reasons on the record, and then I would have the prosecutor come in and place the facts on the record.
Okay, I don't want to do that to Todd. It would be
It's up
best. Can I stay there until the front and back now for that? Probably just take 2 seconds.
As you can hear, there's a discussion between the attorney for Justin Lane whether or not he's going to plead no contest or plead guilty to lesser charges. If he pleads no contest in the state of Ohio, the facts have to be put on the record, which would include all the evidence that was taken in this case.
Mr. Lane is going to plead guilty to the amended counts in this case. It's a misdemeanor of the first degree. It's possession of criminal tools. It does name specifically a Glock 43X, which is also the subject to a stipulated forfeiture. There is also the suspension that was made to a no operator's license and a speeding violation in this, which Mr. Lane's also going to plead guilty to. There were some recommended sanctions, obviously to the court's discretion, that included 180 days jail, 180 days suspended, the various fines that were there. Any fine that Your Honor would impose today, Mr. Lane's prepared to pay in full here. And then also, should Your Honor impose the gun safety course, which was also part of the recommendation, Mr. Lane did in fact complete that recently at point blank. I will provide that confirmation to the probation department as soon as I receive that documentation.
Okay.
Thank you,
All right,
Judge.
thank you. Mr. Lane, do you understand what's been represented here by your lawyer?
Yes, ma'am.
There was a plea bargain with your lawyer and the prosecutor, all right? And as a result of that plea bargain, the state has moved the court to dismiss the very serious charge of transporting a loaded firearm in a motor vehicle, with the understanding that you're going to enter a guilty plea to one count of possessing criminal tools, that's the firearm, and then also you would plead guilty to an amended charge of no operator's license and also plead guilty to speed. Is that what you want to do here today?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and while we have this discussion, you can remain standing, but if you would like to sit, you can have a seat while we have this discussion. It's gonna stand? Okay. All right, before I can accept a plea from you, sir, I have to make sure you understand by pleading guilty, you're giving up your trial rights. That means you are waiving your right to have a trial in this case, either to me as a judge or to a jury. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
You're giving up your right to confront witnesses and cross-examine them. You're giving up your right to compel witnesses, meaning make them come to court and to testify using the power of subpoena. You're giving up your right to have the state prove its case against you beyond a reasonable doubt, and you are giving up your right to remain silent. This is a complete admission of guilt, and I can and I will sentence you today. Do you understand all of the rights you are giving up by entering a plea of guilty?
Yes, ma'am.
Has anyone made any threats or promises to get you to change your plea?
No, ma'am.
Are you under the influence of any drugs or alcohol?
No, ma'am.
Are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you satisfied with the representation of your lawyer?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any questions about your rights?
No, ma'am. That's right.
All right. How do you plead then to one count of possessing criminal tools? That's a misdemeanor of the first degree.
Guilty.
And how do you plead to the amended charge of no operator's license?
Guilty.
And how do you plead to one count of speeding?
Guilty.
Mr. Lane, tell me what happened here.
Story.
Tell me.
Leaving the studio with my boys, and we really weren't had nothing planned. It was just going back home,
If you
and
want to
then
move over so you can pull your
oh,
thing down.
is that the way to go through?
No, if you just want to stand there, if it's hard for the court to hear you with your mask.
I am having a little trouble, so if you could, that's fine. If you're comfortable, you can pull it down. There's a microphone, that's a court microphone right in front of you, so the record is picking it up, okay?
So I was traveling with my friend on the way home from the studio. It was late, but we literally was just going home, and I was speeding. I was going to I think 89 or something, and he just pulled me over, and then I honestly forgot that the gun was there because I feel like if I knew the gun was there, I probably would have put it somewhere else, maybe not right here. So I mean, when we put him over, that was just a situation. It just happened fast. I mean, I really don't have no excuse for it. I just know that was stupid. But, I
Okay.
mean,
And you didn't have a license at the time, correct?
yes, ma'am.
Your license was forfeited for failure to appear or failure to pay fines somewhere else?
Yeah, but I was unaware of the suspension license at the time.
else.
All right,
Your Honor,
anything else on the facts, Mr. Friedman? Go ahead.
No, not on the facts of the situation. I
Okay.
just wanted, you had made reference to our kind of pre-hearing discussions, and I just wanted to make clear on the record for purposes of this hearing that Madeline Grant from my office has been with Mr. Lane, and they have since gotten the Richmond Heights matter in the Leonard's Court up to speed. That case has been recalled, and now they're taking care of that, so.
Yes. So in terms of the plea here, though, at the time,
Right.
the license was not in good standing with the state. All right. So anything on the facts?
No, Your Honor.
So I'll accept a plea of guilty, enter guilty finding to 1 count of possessing criminal tools, 1 count of driving with no operator's license, and 1 count of speed. The felony charge is being dismissed on the state's motion. That's at your cost, though, Mr. Lane. There are court costs associated with everything that we do here, okay? You'll be responsible to pay those, all right? Now, as to sentence, I will first address Mr. Friedman, and then I will address you, Mr. Lane. I'm gonna note for the record, the state on the CRB charge is requesting a $750 fine, court costs 180 days in jail, that all being suspended, forfeiture of the firearm in a gun safety class, and fines and costs on the traffic offenses. Mr. Friedman.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, I would like to note and acknowledge Prosecutor Cipollo's work in this case, because it didn't just start today. He and I had been working by telephone, going back and forth on this, and so I appreciate his commitment to seeking what he felt was a just resolution in this case. Everything that he's recommended, I do not, we would agree with. So it's pretty short as far as my presentation on sentencing. The reason that I agree with it is because Mr. Lane, as Mr.
Dan DeRosa with 19 here. Looks like our camera feed has frozen. Hopefully this is just temporary. I want to unpack what's going on here while we wait for this camera shot to come back. Justin Lane is being allowed to really make a pretty good deal here. You heard the judge talk about how serious the charge is, the felony charge of the weapon, the first-degree possession of having a loaded firearm in his console. That is a felony, but because they're making a pretty nice deal here, they're going to bring it down to a first-degree misdemeanor. That is going to be a possession of criminal tools. You even heard what the prosecutor is recommending, 180 days in jail, but go ahead and suspend that, so no time in jail, potentially some fines, having to pay the speeding ticket that he's pleaded guilty to. Also, he's pleaded guilty to driving with a suspended license. That's because his previous license had been suspended when he didn't show up to court for a Richmond Heights speeding ticket a couple of years ago. Didn't show up in court. They suspended his license. He had had a warrant out for his arrest because of that. So that's where this really all kind of snowballed for the Pittsburgh Steelers cornerback Justin Lane. I'm seeing a lot of you question why was he arrested in the Cleveland area if this was a Pittsburgh Steeler. Well, he's from Cleveland. He lives in Cleveland. You heard him explain that he and his 2 friends that were in the vehicle had just left the studio and that they were going home. This is what Justin told the judge, in case you couldn't hear him. He claims he forgot the gun was in his console and that he literally said, "I don't have an excuse, just stupid," is what he said in court on the record in front of the judge. More than likely, the judge is going to go along with the prosecutor's recommendation. I'm watching our camera here. We still don't have it back, but we did show you earlier, this is the actual traffic stop. This was back on April 23rd. It was 1:20 in the morning, really early in the morning on Friday night. So think about it, late Thursday night into Friday morning, 1:20 in the morning. The officers say that there was a strong smell of weed in the car, and that according to the police, when they searched the vehicle, there were pieces of weed strewn all about the car. That's what they said. And then when they started searching the vehicle, That is when they found the loaded handgun in the console. You also heard as a part of this plea bargain that he is going to have to take some sort of gun safety course for traveling in a vehicle. He obviously did not have a CCW, a permit to carry a loaded concealed weapon in the state of Ohio. So that's where this jumped up to a felony, and they were able to make a pretty good deal again for the Pittsburgh Steelers cornerback. He was drafted, I believe it was in 2019. He played for Michigan State. He had graduated from Benedictine High School here in the Cleveland area. So again, for the people who question what he was even doing in Cleveland, well, he's from here, lives here in the off season. As we still don't have our camera back, but more than likely the judge is going to go along with the prosecutor, reducing this from a felony to a first-degree misdemeanor. You heard it explained in court. He didn't have a past. He has no prior criminal record other than the failure to appear in court for a traffic violation in Richmond Heights. That's what suspended his license. He said he didn't even know about that charge, so that's why he didn't know he was driving under a suspended license. The attorney for Justin Lane had said they had already cleared that up in Richmond Heights. They'd paid the fine there and gotten that cleared up. And so this was a big deal, a big day for the Pittsburgh Steeler, Justin Lane, to be able to make this deal, to drop this from a felony, which in my understanding from covering quite a bit of court here in the state of Ohio, you cannot just plea away a felony. You can't get a suspended sentence in the state of Ohio. If you are convicted or plead guilty to a felony, there is going to be some jail time, some actual jail time, no suspended sentence. But in this case, he was able to plea this down. Let's review again. He pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor in the first degree, possession of criminal tools. If you don't know what that is in the state of Ohio, that can be a host of anything. Let's say you were breaking into cars and you were using a crowbar to smash in a window. That crowbar becomes a criminal tool. That is a possession of a criminal tool. So the fact that, or even if you use a screwdriver to open somebody's front door to break in, that screwdriver becomes a criminal tool. So the fact that they have been allowed to take this from a gun felony down to a possession of a criminal tool, and that criminal tool happens to be a handgun, a 9mm Glock in this case, is something I don't see a lot. And I've covered court in the state of Ohio for about 15 years. So that's an interesting plea down. There were two other individuals in the vehicle with Lane that evening. And we're going to get you an update as soon as we can. It looks like we have lost our camera feed permanently out of there. So we are going to wrap this up. More than likely, the judge is going to go along with what the prosecutor has recommended, a 180-day sentence for the first-degree guilty plea to possession of a criminal tool. He will have to forfeit the gun. They are going to suspend the 180 days, meaning he won't spend a day in jail. Also pleaded guilty to the speeding ticket. He was doing 89 in a 60-mile-per-hour zone, and then also pleading guilty to driving with a suspended license. That dates back to the Richmond Heights deal, where he did not, apparently, according to him in court, he did not know that he had a suspended license, didn't know that he had a failure to appear in court in Richmond Heights previously. Again, this is a young man who went to school here in the Cleveland area, was here in the off season, and this all occurred on Friday, April 23rd. We'll have to see what happens to Mr. Lane from the NFL perspective, from the commissioner's perspective. We've seen in the past individuals who get arrested and charged and then convicted, especially on a firearms charge. We'll have to see now that this gets reduced from carrying a loaded weapon improperly, didn't have a CCW, now that it gets reduced down to a possession of criminal tools, will Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, will he see that any differently? Will he take that into account? We'll have much more on this coming up in our early news. For those of you watching on LNL, we're going to turn you back over to their control. Otherwise, I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News. Have a good afternoon.
19 News. First, fair, everywhere.